All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today I'm here and we're going to talk about the hottest Nintendo thing right now, and you know what that is. I know what that is. It's the Switch OLED. We got some hands-on impressions from the big boys at IGN, GameSpot, and The Verge. We have more speculation from sources. I know it's getting completely out of hand, but we've definitely had some time to sit on this announcement and think about things a bit, so I want to touch on the hands-on impressions a little bit, really go into where Nintendo goes from here, what's next for the Switch, and why the Switch OLED model is really just a very Nintendo thing to do, and that it is essentially just a Switch XL rather than a Switch Pro. And before we get started, I just want to say thanks for stopping in, coming and hanging out. I appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button. It helps out a lot. And be sure to subscribe if you're new here. Let's dive right in. So there's quite a few journalists out there that have had the pleasure and amazing opportunity to get their hands on the Switch OLED model, and the impressions are overwhelmingly positive so far. Tom Marks at IGN said the strength of the new display unsurprisingly becomes even more obvious when turned on, immediately shining bright and clear from pretty much any viewing angle I tried. Honestly, it's not an exaggeration to liken its vibrance to when the Game Boy Advance SP got an updated model with a far brighter screen, making the original Switch look noticeably dimmer if compared directly. The Verge got their hands on with it as well and said the screen looks brighter and more vibrant to me than the original Switch. The increased contrast is definitely noticeable on Rainbow Road, where the neon lights popped out of the screen more brightly compared to the darker background. I've also been using a Switch Lite for the last year or so, and its screen looks positively dim and muddy by comparison. The Switch OLED seems to be getting incredibly positive impressions all around, and that brings me to the ultimate point about this system in general, and that it's just an upgrade to the handheld mode, right? It's really an upgrade that only applies to the handheld mode of the console. I'm sure Nintendo has all kinds of data saying how many people play docked versus handheld, and from a handheld tablet standpoint, the device itself was starting to seem extremely dated. Thick bezels all around, rough build quality with issues that popped up over time, like vents for the fan breaking, the battery bulging out, kickstands breaking off, among many other things. The handheld itself was screaming for a refresh, and that's exactly what Nintendo has always done with its handhelds, just minor refreshes. The Game Boy Advance got the SP and then a version with a brighter screen. The DS and 3DS both got XL versions, so it's pretty easy to assume the Switch would get some sort of upgrade similar to those, and it did. The Switch OLED model is just a Switch XL, and the focus is solely on the handheld system itself and making it better. So where does Nintendo go from here? Well, there's one option I don't see many people talking about. External GPUs are getting more and more popular these days. Many content creators and journalists seem to think Nintendo will release some new hardware next year with another brand new Switch model, but that's probably the most unlikely scenario I could possibly imagine. Nintendo literally never does that. And why would they release this Switch OLED model as a stopgap of sorts when there's another one right around the corner? Well, the answer to that's easy. They wouldn't. But there is a possibility that this is just the handheld refresh and a new dock is coming next year, one that has some boosted power inside it, maybe an external GPU or some extra processing power that boosts the Switch ability to do 4K in docked mode, a dock that can be used by the old Switch or the OLED model since they are both the same size. This way, those that care about the handheld mode can upgrade to the OLED Switch now, and those that chose not to upgrade can still get this dock and get the nice 4K docked upgrade later. I think this is the most likely scenario. Nintendo is in such a unique situation with the Switch because of its overall flexibility. There's so many approaches they could take to continue to iterate upon a system that, to be honest, is just straight up killing it right now. This way, though, is the only way to upgrade the Switch without splitting the audience and forcing an upgrade. Games are so scalable now that I don't think it will be an issue getting third-party games to run at a lower 720p resolution in handheld mode and then scaling them right up when in dock. If we take the Switch OLED model at face value, throw out the dock, as a handheld system, it's still miles ahead of any handheld ever made. It's insane some of the stuff we can play on it. If even 6 years ago you would have told me I could play games like The Witcher 3 on a handheld device and still get 4 hours of battery life, I would have thought you were insane. But here we are. Yeah, I would have loved a new processor and all the bells and whistles, but due to the flexibility and scalability of the Switch device itself, there are plenty of opportunities for Nintendo to iterate on a system that many of us love. So for now, who is the Nintendo Switch OLED for? Well, if you don't own a Switch yet, then this one is clearly for you. The extra $50 gets you just an overall better system, top to bottom. There's no argument there. There will also be some people that want to upgrade like myself. I love OLED screens and I am a sucker for good panels. If you were one of those people like myself back in the 3DS days on Reddit diving deep into the whole TN versus IPS panel lottery, then this is probably the system for you. If none of those things are important to you and you have no idea what I just said and it doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, then skipping this upgrade is probably for the best. The current Switch can still play all the great Nintendo games you love and adore, and you're not missing out on anything at all if you strictly play docked mode. Yes, there's some things to be disappointed with in the new Switch OLED model. There's no doubt about that. Nintendo is continuing to do Nintendo things, and this was a very Nintendo thing to do. All in all, though, I personally like this announcement, and since I primarily play handheld, this is a day one upgrade for me, and I can't wait to play Metroid Dread on that OLED screen. But even more so, I can't wait to go back and revisit some of my favorite games and see how they all look as well. Anyway, that's it for me. That's all I have time for today. Until next time, I'm out.